Word up, yeah, I'm word up, it's Laundry Mad Trap. Keep the loot and I rap.
Back in the lab, without a mic to grab. Yo, welcome back to GYGB Boxing. Back in the lab, I know you missed a set in a while. You know, shout out to my Wu-Tang, my GYGB brethren. Big Mike, Ride or Die, DOX, and Coltrane. You know how it is when the Wu blew up, man. Everybody started doing their solo projects, working on their albums. You know, the RZA started having problems getting everybody together to work in the studio. But, you know, we're not going to have the problems of the Wu. Shout out to everybody. Their schedule is real heavy right now. Shout out to Coltrane. You know, his debut shot, Coffee with Coltrane, the #1 discuss sports talk show on the web, on YouTube. And you know, that's my man Coltrane. He gonna chime in a little later, but we're gonna break down some fights. Yeah, you wondering why I got the rock right here? You know, shout out to the GYG brethren. We about to step in. Just got finished working out. We about to step in and, you know, get our ball on into this league out here in New Jersey. Also, there's been a lot of, you know, debates going on about Kobe Bean Bryant, D-Wade, and my man LeBron James, who's the MVP. And I just wanted to put my little chime and 2 cents in it, man. Wow. LeBron James, first of all, I'm going to say the league has never seen anything like this. I don't think sports has seen anything like it. The man has got to be well over 260, about 270 plus, can run faster than everybody, can jump faster than everybody. Haven't seen nobody push and pass the rock like this since Magic, Irving, Johnson. And when I mean that, I'm not talking about just making good passes, able to just pass off the dribble. You know, zip the ball in ways I've never seen before for a man that size. Keep in mind, this guy's the same size, even heavier than Karl Malone, the greatest power forward of all time. No disrespect to you, Charles Barkley, who is my favorite power forward of all time, but Karl Malone is the greatest power forward of all time. Too bad he didn't get no rings. Shout out to Michael Jordan, which I will make the parallels later on. But he's the same size as Karl Malone, and he's able to do these amazing things. You know, his stat line is retarded. It's simply retarded. 28 plus, I think it, what is it? Is it 7 plus or 8 plus assists? Or whatever the way it goes around, 6 or 7 rebounds, but the stat line is ridiculous. You know, it's reminiscent of like I said, Magic and Bird, but they never had that many points with it. So the only person in conversation you can bring somewhat, you know, is Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson. So with that being said, let's get to Kobe Bean Bryant. Now, from the door, I'm going to say Kobe and LeBron's in discussion simply because these dudes have the first and second best record in the league. D-Wade will get there, and D-Wade is reminiscent, reminds me of Michael Jordan in the first half of his career, when he won the first 3 titles. You know, extremely athletic, just an all-out player, you know, can get to the basket, can shoot, can basically do everything. Both of these dudes, by the way, is averaging way more assists than Kobe Bryant. But on the other hand, Kobe Bryant scores with the least effort that I've seen of anybody ever in the history of the league. And that's no disrespect to Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. And by no means, within the triangle, if Michael Jordan didn't restrict his shot selection, which was told to him, you know, he could have continued to average 35 plus. Same thing with Kobe Bryant. I think if Kobe Bryant wanted to, he could average 37 points per game right now. He shoots effortlessly, and it's like it's to the point where it's reminiscent of Michael Jordan, the last 3 championships, the calmness, you know, playing with his back to the basket, finding the sweet spots, scoring in a way where he's lulling the defense to sleep, as opposed to a LeBron James powering, working hard, D-Wade hustling, falling on the ground. Kobe's been through this phase as far as scoring, of working real hard, you know, exerting a lot of energy to get buckets. He's at the point now where he can control the pace of the game, reminiscent to Michael Jordan. He can control the pace of the game for three quarters, and in the 4th quarter dominate. The scariest game was the game against Houston. He had 5 points at halftime, ended up with 37 points, 18 points in a 4-minute run. You know, that's very frightening. You know what I'm saying? And that's why at this point I still have Kobe Bean Bryant as the MVP of the league. They have the best record. You know, the triangle restricts, it's a lot of ball movement. So I think that takes away from some of his assists and some of his abilities to rebound, even though I don't think he's the rebounder of LeBron or the passer of LeBron. You know, I don't think he's as athletic as neither one of those guys too. But at this point, I'm going to go with Kobe Bean Bryant simply for the fact that I think that he can score he's the best. He's one of the best scorers in the history of the game. And at this point, he's learning how to impact the game properly with his scoring. And that was an issue I had with him in the past. You know, it remains to be seen in the playoffs because, you know, I saw some things in Kobe in the playoffs before that, you know, I took back a lot of stuff. You know, that's where the big separations come. He has to show up in the playoffs. And, you know, much luck to all those guys in the playoffs. But let's get back to Guard Your Grill boxing. You know, we had my man Kirkland fight last week, and I was talking to a couple of guys about it. And, you know, I think Kirkland's going to send some shockwaves through the 154-pound division. And it's not because I think he's the most technically sound fighter. I don't think he's technically sound at all. But I haven't seen look in the eyes of the individual like that since the late, great Mike Tyson. And when I say late, great, I'm just talking about them being great a while back ago. Shout out the Docs. The look in his eyes, the sheer will, determination, and the preparation for war is just reminiscent of Mike. The way he goes after your body and cuts that ring off, so be it, he doesn't even use the proper footwork to do it. He cuts the ring off, he attacks the body, and he just does not give in. That being said, I have him beating Martinez simply because when I saw Martinez fight, I saw a lot of flaws in his fight game. In his previous fight, he was getting hit a lot. He makes general mistakes. Now, if you're going to fight with your hands down, and we'll get to Roy Jones Jr., you either got to be Joe Calzaghe or Roy Jones Jr., a simply freak where you can sit right in front of the person and slip punches. Martinez gets hit. If he's not in his rhythm, he gets hit. The other thing is, I don't know where his pop level is against a guy named Kirkland. Because Kirkland, he could take a punch, reminiscent of his last fight. The only person I really have beaten him down there is the Punisher. Shout out the Big Pun. Is Paul the Punisher Williams. Because of the length, and people forget about Paul fighting backwards. He'll just be a whipping post all day long. Kirkland is a nightmare for Vernon Forrest. Too much activity, too much work. Vernon in his prime beats Kirkland with ease. He's a nightmare for him. Anguilla, classic fight with Anguilla losing. As much as people try to put Anguilla on the pedestal, certain fighters are going to give him a lot of trouble. And I think Martinez gives Anguilla a lot of trouble. He's a nightmare for Anguilla. Kirkland, I had beaten Martinez. He beats a lot of powerful players down there at 154. It remains to see what Winky Wright looks like. With radar, my man. Whoa, I was going to lose that rock. Yeah, this is a little ball. I'm not Doc. I'm not Julius Erving. And that kind of rhyme, too. You know what I mean? Because I'm swerving. You know what I mean? All right, Vatili Klitschko against Juan Carlos Gomez overseas. This fight is going to be televised on ESPN. It's a recession. Everybody broke. We seeing it trickle down in every aspect, man. From big organizations closing down to HBO not funding these good fights, man. You know, you got the Klitschko fight coming on ESPN. My man Eddie Fast Chambers is fighting Peter on ESPN. You know, shout out to Eddie. I think Eddie can steal this one if he comes in shape. And I'm going to tell you this, people. We've been seeing Eddie off and on for the past couple of months. He looks like he's in tremendous shape. He looks very small. He's dealing with a guy named Samuel Peter. If he's not super slick and he gets tired in that fight, he can get KO'd. So we'll talk about that fight in the future. But as I said, it's a recession. Shout out to Young Jeezy. You know what I'm saying? They're not funding these fights. HBO is not taking these fights. They're missing classics. So we got Klitschko. We're going to see it on ESPN. And this is a mandatory defense, so it ain't too much said, man. One thing I can say at the age Klitschko is, you know, I guess he got to take the mandatory because it's their dream to retire with both of them having a belt. But on the other hand, you know, these big fights need to be made. You know, I don't know what happened with David Haymaker. I guess the negotiations fell through, or David got smart. You know, he found a way to tick off the older brother and still land who he wanted to land from the very beginning, which is Wadimir. And let me tell you about this. First of all, I'm picking Vatili in a knockout. I think Vatili, hands down, is the best heavyweight since Lennox Lewis. He's been the best heavyweight since Lennox Lewis. He beats an unprepared Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis knocks him out in a rematch. I've said it. I'll continue to say it. He's been the best since then. You know, he fights patient. He fights with power. He's able to circle. He's able to fight patiently and get you out of there and use his length and his strength against you. Now, going back to Wadimir and David Haymaker, this fight draws some interest from me simply because of how Wadimir reacts under pressure and when he gets rattled. Now, I'm going to tell you something. David Haymaker showed that he could bring his power up to the heavyweight division. If he's able to make Vatili Klitschko uncomfortable and get him to lean back, as Vatili Klitschko loves to do, when you're applying a certain amount of pressure, shout out to Samuel Peter, we could have ourselves a possible upset. And I will talk about this further on, but I'm going to leave that clue in your mind. If Vatili stays patient, establishes jab, and is able to keep David Haye at the end of the right, it's a short night for David Haye. But I'm going to tell you something. If David Haye applies pressure, comes in with speed and angles, and gets him rattled, you can see an upset.